Thank you, Paul. Hi, everyone. So, my first experience of flooding, I was 8 years old. And I was happy to see all the water coming in. And I thought, wow, it's not ankle-deep water flood that we normally see. It's the kind of flooding where you see cows floating. And roads turn into rivers. And the only mode of transportation during that kind of floods is actually boats. 8 years old, it was so much fun for me. I could jump on the puddle. I could go in and float my paper boats. It was fantastic. That was my first experience of flooding. And times passed by. 1 day, 2 days, school was off. I was even happier. Offices were closed. Everyone in the family was at home. And I could see some hustle bustle going on. My family members, they were rushing off to the shops. They were buying a lot of food and drinking water. I was busy making my paper boats, floating them. Then we used to live on top of a post office those days, the first floor. Underneath there was post office. And as I was floating my paper boats, I could see a lot of letters just floating by. Then sometimes I would see a teddy bear. Other times I would see maybe a little something, some belongings of people, clothing. And one day, it was the first 2 or 3 days of floods. It was continuing. And schools were still closed, everybody was still home. And I found a little shoebox. I was still out and about. No one told me not to go into the water yet. And people were again busy. I found this little shoebox, and I found 4 little kittens in there. One was alive. That was my first pet. That was my first experience of flooding. So I still remember that little thing. I was very happy to have at least one of them alive. Floods, after that, I've seen a number of floods. In my life, I was in India, so you know it's a yearly thing. And paper boats no longer give me that much fun anymore since then. But what happened is, when the flood continued, water started rising. I was told not to go out anymore because I will be sick. The buying of the food reduced. We could see our kitchen full of dry materials. What started after that was a stream of people coming in, some of them with their children, babies, asking for milk, asking for food, drinking water. Others coming for clothing. This was a week and a half after the floods. Water was still there, and I was asked not to go out. People were helping each other. It's not that they were not. They were helping with whatever they could help. They were going from one house to another. These are the people who have lost everything. They were coming from villages. Some of them lost their jobs. Some of them has lost their agricultural land. Some of them they were having fishing as their mode of occupation. So I was 8 years. I didn't get all that time. What I saw was the immense undertaking that goes on after a flood, how people come together. What I saw at the auntie next door, she was not my relative. We call aunties and uncles to everyone. So that's how we feel related. She would know what's happening in every house. in every member of community, what is happening. The vegetable seller who would come every morning, bringing a lot of vegetables before the flood started, he would send one day to our home some herbs, free of cost. This was during floods. Free of cost, saying, give it to the children because it's good for health. It will help them not to catch the water diseases. I didn't realize why people are doing that. Other people, I saw another day a lot of clothing coming from different parts of the community being dumped in our first ground floor in the post office, where people, whenever someone was coming, we were giving away the clothing, giving away the food, giving away the different things that were there. That was the power of community. My grandma would tell that don't do this, because if you eat this, or if you do this, this will result into this. That was the knowledge that she would share with her children, with her grandchildren. So, and the auntie next door, she was our mode of communication. She was our feedback loop. She would know what's happening in every house. That time, I didn't know what is all this happening. Years later, when I had to come, I knew I was introduced to the concept of empowered community. I reflect back on this story then, and firsthand, when I saw the three things that was most important during the time of flooding, during the time when the community came together, it's kind of a team-building activity. We had prioritization, the food, the clothing, the shelter. That was the first thing. Just after floods, what happens? Immediate response for people saving lives, whether it's animal, whether it's human lives, then properties. Then we saw another thing, inclusivity. It doesn't matter, my grandparents, the vegetable seller next door, the shopkeeper, the office worker, the postman, everyone sharing their little wisdom, sharing their knowledge, what was going on, what could help the community, how can the community come together. Water started receding, the stench stayed, the grayness of the water stayed. But it did not make the community stop there. This I'm talking about India. It happens every year. But that brings the concept of resilience in there. People are prepared for the next flood. Cut to UK. I come here, and I started, after my academic, I was interested in disaster and its management and community and engagement and a lot of things. What makes it a resilient community? So I started working with smaller communities here in the UK after my PhD. And I saw the scale might be different. The impact, the huge impact, the cows don't float here during floods. That's fortunate. But the effect, the sadness in people's eyes when they lose their things, when their memories are lost, the pain is the same. And when you see that, you realize it might be different scale, but there are complexities here. There are issues of prioritization. There are issues of how to manage. Now, when I came to talking to it was all very new for me. I was also learning. And it was like a team-building exercise. What makes a good team? Someone needs to know what's going on. Someone needs to communicate effectively. And others needs to listen and share their wisdom. You cannot be an inactive person sitting in a team and not doing anything or not sharing anything. That's community for you. What we do in office, that's what we do in our society. So there were challenges. It's not that there were no challenges. There were challenges of lack of participation. There were challenges of lack of empathy. There were challenges of understanding what was going on, how the community can be prepared better, how can we all come together. There were differences in priorities. And there were challenges that couldn't be done anything locally, institutional challenges, funding challenges. We all know that. However, does that mean we don't do anything? I don't think that's the solution we can have. So, apart from prioritization, priorities change everywhere depending on what you are, what is the problem, how the solutions can be built. But what is important when we are prioritizing our solution is bringing all sections of the community together, bringing different participants from different sectors, whether with any age, any sex, any group, diverse participants, bringing them all together. Why was there a lack of participation? Because they didn't feel that they own the solution that we are proposing. The top-down approach that has been happening in risk management, not only flood risk management, many management sections, top-down approach, we don't feel that it's our own. That ownership, the concept of ownership, that needs to be brought in. And inclusivity is the aspect which brings that concept together. So we brought different people, not only adults here, the youth, our youth. They came, they were telling us solutions, incredible solutions, without any inhibitions. They didn't think where the funding will come from. They didn't think how this can be improved or how it can be implemented. They just gave us the solutions. That's the power of knowledge, of understanding. Yes, it may not happen now. It may happen in 5 years' time. Doesn't matter. We have the knowledge to share, and they are our future. I went to primary schools. Their solutions are amazing, and they were the most amazing people to interact with. Fantastic people, and always ready to respond. So inclusivity was part of the whole activity. I'm showing you just 3 examples. These are examples from people, adults, who think what can happen, what cannot happen, what can go wrong. We think about it, and they gave us fantastic benefit metrics, as you can see with order of importance and order of difficulty. Very well thought. Look at the young people, the secondary school children. They just wanted action. You saw? That was the biggest word in their solution. Fantastic solution. And look at the primary school student response. They want a home, they want a playground, they want to be happy. And they want lots of trees for some reason, because they like sticks and hanging on them. That was their solution for me. But that does help in flood risk management. So, bringing inclusivity within the solution making in risk management, in my case, flood risk management, was an incredible journey. Inclusivity leads us to something that we understand in a way where society feels that the solution is their own. The ownership is important whenever we have any solution. Now, the third thing that I mentioned in my first slide is the feedback loop. The special auntie I told you about, who knew what's happening in everyone's home, who knew what's going on, who is unwell, who needs what, she will go to every family and she will talk. There was no telephone those days, the first experience of flooding when I was talking about. But we knew everything what's going on in the community. That's feedback. That's understanding what's going on. So, and when we have a proper feedback loop, when with any solution, with every part of this community, if we know what is the gap, then we can actually reduce the gap. We can actually bring and widen the acceptance. We can understand the issue better. This helps us to understand what needs to be done to develop capacity within a society, within the community. And finally, this helps us in applying the learning more effectively. Again, bringing back to a team building exercise. We do it all the time. But how effective it is in terms of flood risk management, I've seen it firsthand. The picture I've shown you previously, this was a community 3 years before. They had nothing there except for the issue of flooding. They were at risk of flooding, and they used to call themselves, we sit in a bowl where all the water comes in, and we get dunked into that. We are like a biscuit. And I always used to crack out because I said, don't think yourself to be biscuit anymore. Wait, I'll bring the sponge. And we used to laugh on that. But now, 3 years later, they are applying for funding. They have started this community. They stuck together. They managed to get together. They get their acts together. There were barriers. There were issues. There were problems. But they managed to get together, and they did 3 things. They became inclusive. They started asking every member of the community. It's a small community, and I understand this may not be possible for every community, and results might be different. But what they ensured is not to give up when the barriers came. And now they are applying for funding. They are going out and about. They have received a number of fundings, and they are one of the best practice case studies. Fantastic, isn't it? It's just about perseverance. And of course, whether it's mitigation, whether it's preparedness and recovery, understanding and giving proper feedback, going back and forth is essential. So that's my happy community. And what I shared today with you is a learning from my research that I do, but it's also very close to my heart. The concept of togetherness. It's very important when we are talking about effective adaptation. We live in an ever-changing world of uncertainties, and things change from one place to another. I touched upon the importance of dealing with complexities of sustainable social engagement. It is complex. There's no wrong in saying that. But when it comes to the purpose of adaptation, we should always focus that the denominator should be improved social well-being, and the rest comes and follows with it. Thank you very much.